Hello, good morning. I hope you all enjoyed the film. So we'll go for the discussion. I'm so happy to be chair of these sessions. First of all, I'd like to welcome to the filmmakers. Beate is here, and then yeah. Yeah, it's really great, wonderful project. Personally, I like your way of approaching people. It's a really the great idea. You being, follow the peoples, and then also give kind of maybe to all the viewers. I also get a kind of similar experiences, maybe you experiences in the field, meeting those peoples and talking with them. So it's really, the idea of visual ethnography. And then I like very much your work. And then all the times, when watching the films, I was here, viewers, idea of their life, and then the foods, and then the community, unity. So really great work. Yes, thank you very much, and congratulations. Yeah. Yeah, and your idea of like the local and transnational activities from both the village, both end of migration change from the village, and also there's life in Florida. So you able to show from your fieldwork in the 1998 and 2013. So we could see the flow of cultures and the religions, materials, and also the economy, and the people's life, the connections to their hometowns from the different elements of their cultural activities. So, and then also, of course, their dance. It was really great to unite the peoples. Just before go to further discussion, I like to ask one question, because you started your fieldwork in the village. So what's your motivations like to continue this multi-sited visual ethnography? You like to do the fieldwork in Florida. Could you share it?
I started my fieldwork in the village in 1980 as a young student, and I decided then that you have only once in your life the possibility to follow people over a long time. So I revisited them every year, every second year. And when then I had the chance to do a film, of course I decided I would do a film in the village. That was 1989. And we filmed in the village, and then I went back again and again. And this feast I observed the very first time I was in the village, but I didn't pay many attention to it. And in 89 we filmed it, and then 1998 I had the possibility to film it at the family's house. So the brother of the main protagonist here, he did the feast, and then I said, could I come? And I stayed over weeks with them and saw how they prepared it and so on. But I never managed really to do a film out of it, out of various reasons. And the same year I started to visit them in Florida. And so I had the idea, let us see how the people are there. And then I started to also visit them continuously in Florida. And then they told me, yes, Abraham, who had been a little child when I started, now being a man, will do the feast. And then I ask again, could I be with you? And I'm always living in the house of my friend, of the mother of Abraham. So I'm there, I see what's going on. So I can film spontaneously, and as they know me for so long, it was not really a problem to film. And I had a discussion also with Reno Weber about how does she feel that I publish these films. And she said, on the feast, it's no problem. It's an official feast, and I don't see any problem. Other things we would have to discuss more. And so in a certain way, I follow the people. So I never had a project to study this and this, but I just revisited them, and I always take the camera with me.
Yeah, I think so. Audience also maybe have a similar experiences. We could see her, the deep relations to the peoples, and in the different sequences, all they are, in a way they are addressing. So she's presence in the film. So personally, I very much like it. Maybe it's not purely observational, but more it's interactive, and then I really like it, our approach and talking with the peoples. And maybe if we have some questions from the audience. Yeah, many questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Beate, for this film. I really enjoyed it. I got very hungry, I have to admit. I have several questions, but the question which moves me most at the moment is what happened to the feast, the San Nazareno in Patamban? Because I took it over, and it's not, this is a single case, other communities do this as well. So how is this developing? Was the feast in Mexico depend very much of the cargueros as well coming from the States? And how is there competition between the Nazareno feast, and as well Vidal was very important for the whole project, bringing it over. What is his role in the whole festival situation, and how does it develop? And is it a similar carguero situation in the States than in Mexico? And what would happen if somebody from North Carolina is now getting carguero? Is this then moving up there, or it's going to stay there? So what is the situation? Because all these festivals are so important for the expat communities. They're really Mexican identity. And my last question is, because it is really, and we know it from your films, it's so much important, pottery village, and pottery is very important to showcase in fiestas as well. I haven't seen really a piece of Patamban pottery in the film. I saw other stuff, but not that.
To answer the last question, you saw a little pottery in the image. The image, the adornment were the little pots of Patamban. But of course, the subtitle of this film is Transnational Feast. And I mean it really, it's a feast which is taking place more or less the same weekend in Patamban, in Florida, but also in California and other states in the US. And of course, they somehow are competing, and they are exchanging messages. And you saw that I took from Facebook several, or from YouTube, I don't know where I find it, several film clips to show that they do the feast in various places. The interesting thing is really that they do it the same weekend, and they are conscious that it's a transnational feast. They feel they are feasting together. In the village, they continue with this feast, and I have to say, in the village, they have 3 effigies of Jesus Nazareno. So it's parallel 3 feasts they are doing. And so it's, and in the village, I think it's going still strong. In Florida and might be in the others, it's difficult to find the carguero. And as you see, it's quite a burden. It's a burden of work and it's a burden of financial questions. And that's why Genoveva once said, yes, we can do it less. We don't have to do it as big as this time. And I have seen it later, again, twice, I think, and it was reduced. So there are possibilities to manage it. And the last thing is the people of Tampa wanted to have it. And I think the feast was once in Tampa then. And, but there are also Patambeños. On the other side, in Fort Pierce, where the film was shot, there are also people not being Patambeños, and they get it also. So, and it's interesting that the feast in Fort Pierce is very much now a feast for the Hispanic people. So, and of course the Patambeños are very proud of that their effigy is uniting people in Florida.
We have many questions. Back there? Yeah.
Thank you, Beate, for this beautiful film. And I must confess that I like your Spanish name Beatriz than Beate. And I have 2 small questions for you. The first is, I know you said since 1980 you have been working in this village. And what is your secret, or what kind of, you have this courage to keep working in this film more than 20, 30 years, working on the film and keeping the materials, and you succeed to make a film at the end. How can you keep this kind of courage working on the same film for long times like that? And the second question is, yes, of course you have been that keeping the tradition. It's for myself, it could be a little bit confusing for me, because for me, Christian religion is not traditional religion, but I can understand when I see the film keeping the tradition of doing that years and years. And have you been thinking of showing other religions in the village? I mean, if they have other religion competing with the Christian religion, for example. Yeah. Thank you.
So I start again with the end. Patamban is completely Catholic. There is one family which is Protestant, I don't know. They call them the Hallelujah. And I have to say, I'm Protestant, I'm not Catholic. And when I started to work in Patamban, even before I worked on the religion, I made clear that I'm not Catholic. And they respected it, and I said, I'm not behaving like a Catholic person. The second thing is, what is important to understand in this context is, there is a division between church and folk religion. The whole thing they are doing, the priest is only necessary for the to benefit, yes, for certain parts. But and you see, that's why I have the interview with the priest in it. There is a discussion between the priest who wants to have these people in his church and the Patambeños who want just to make the feast. It's much more, and that's why they keep the tradition. they always say the priests what they have to do, not the other way around. And the third one is, being so long with the people, I would say it's in a certain way my family. And so they are happy when I'm coming back, and I love to be with them, and it's really nearly like a family film.
Thank you. Well, a comment and a question, but first of all, congratulations. I'm very happy for you, but not very surprised that it had its world premiere at this festival. The comment is that I see it as an important and interesting contribution to the anthropology of expatriate communities and diasporas, which, of course, there is right now an increased interest in for obvious reasons, because we've never in history had so many expatriates and diaspora communities for good and bad reasons. So there's an obvious reason why this is the case. We've always had expatriate communities since the birth of humankind. So it's not that, it's just that the scale of it has become enormous, and therefore it is important. Actually, at the turn of the century, when you started the actual film project, I believe that was a time when, for the first time in history, we had two nation states that had more citizens living outside the nation states than in the nation states. So we're going to see much more of this. The question is, I'd like to step back in history, because you're looking at a feast that has moved from Patamban to Florida. But where did the feast in Patamban come from? Because my guess is, from my fieldwork in Spain, that it originally came in some version or other from Spain.
That it could be in general making feasts for and saints. We leave out this discussion of being saint or not. They had the whole cargo system, but that is very long. I could talk. The whole cargo system is coming out of colonial times, and you would take over a cargo for one saint, for the next one, and you would step up in the political system. And that certainly comes out, of course, of Spain and so on. This special feast, the priest in Patamban says it started in the beginnings of the 20th century. It was spontaneously created, and I experienced still in 1980, it was a very unimportant feast. It was growing over the years to this dimension. And I have seen other feasts which were decaying. So it's in a certain way, it's mobile or changing.
Yeah, if no more questions, I have one more questions. If we still have time. That the dance of the woman, it was really a fantastic dance. And then to bind not only the first generation, but also the second generation, the children. So, yeah, we could see, it's the strong community, and then they looks all happy. But I think you have the long-term fieldwork, both in the migration. So do you like to summarize what's the changes in the village in the recent years?
Concerning this dance?
Dance or anything like?
I'm staying with the Danza de los Viejitos, with the dance of the old people. It's in whole Michoacan an important element. In the village, normally it's placed in other contexts. But as people love it, and it was again, Vidal, you mentioned it, Susan, he is a strong person who likes to organize things like that, and he just then had the idea to integrate this dance in this feast. And interestingly enough, if I'm right, Now they are doing it also in the village. So this time the village took over an idea which came out of the US. But this dance is very important to identify themselves with the area of Michoacan. So I don't know if I answered your question correctly.
Yes, some of the improvements, the comments, like they have the now in Florida, they have the resource to organize it in a larger scale. Maybe I'm just thinking in the village, maybe they don't have such enough resource to organize in the same scale. Yeah. Any questions? No? Time for break? Yeah, and in the end of the film, it's the one improvement. He comments, this is the real life, and then we could see, when he watched the film, he found it's the real life, real events. So that's a great achievement of this film. And as Peter also mentioned, it's a great work for the anthropology and then the students of anthropology too, to launch from your field work. Really wonderful work. And many congratulations again. Yeah, I think we have now out of time. Yeah, I'd like to end up these sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.